Family, I want to give you a little rundown on somatic healing with yourself. While having a practitioner, I'm not going to discredit me or other healing practitioners, it's incredibly powerful work to have somebody hold that space for you and hold that container. And for many of us, we've never had that. And so it's a very, very powerful exchange to actually have somebody do somatic healing with us. However, you can actually do that process alone, and it's pretty essential to your own soul's development, your own personal development on your journey, right? The better you get at processing your own emotional experience and releasing emotions, programs, beliefs from your own system, stored traumas in the body, right? Then you can step deeper and deeper into connection with yourself. And you do not need anybody outside of yourself to do that, right? I'm going to give you a little run through on this video. And if you want a deeper explanation, you can check out my YouTube channel. I'm going to upload a longer video that really goes into the breakdown of how we process and store emotions in the body. We're finally at an age where people are taking emotional health seriously, like finally. But with that, there's a lot of collective emotions being stirred up, right? And at this time, anything that is old, any old stories, beliefs, programming is literally screaming at us right now to be released. And most people are living in a state of projection and like energetic boomerang. So instead of internalizing and processing your own emotional experience, it's like throwing it at somebody else, hitting that person, them sending that back. And we're constantly throwing this energy back and forth instead of internally alchemizing that energy and releasing it and no longer attracting those energies towards us. This is why I always ask the question to myself, why is this in my life? Why am I attracting this? What am I doing that is attracting this into my life? And you can sit here all day and say, this person is this and this and this and this and that, right? But at the end of the day, you're bringing that into your life, right? So the goal is not to gaslight yourself and be like, oh no, this person it's not them, it's me, right? That's not the point of this. The point is to take responsibility for your own emotional experience in that exchange and ultimately in yourself, right? Because they're just reflecting something within you that you need to work on, right? And often that's just boundaries, right? Often that's what it is. It's not like, oh, I need to be nicer. No, you need a boundary, right? So people are like, aren't you supposed to be a healer? Like, why are you so fiery? And it's like, listen, spirituality has boundaries. Spirituality is power. You don't come into power by being nice. You come into power by owning your own stuff and embodying your true energy and not being moved by others, right? And by moved, I mean allowing others to alter your state of being, right? If you're allowing somebody else to alter your internal experience, it's because they're triggering in something inside of you that you need to process and release, right? And because this is a new experience as a collective, that's why there's so much emotional chaos coming to the surface now, right? Because people have been bearing emotions for so long. And then it's just like, we don't know what to do with them. So that's why I wanted to get into this today. So the most important and also painful part of somatic processing is sitting with your emotion, right? Sitting with your emotional space in your own being. And many of us are doing the emotional work, right? Even if you're in therapy or you're doing the work to process your own emotions, take responsibility for yourself. Often we don't realize how much of that trauma is actually stored in our cellular memory. So if you felt a lifetime feeling a certain type of way, right, that feeling is not just a like floating emotion, right? That's like energy stored in our body and it calcates into form, right? So the point of somatic processing is actually for us to pull up the emotion that's stored in the body. So we're not only processing the emotion, recognizing where it's coming from, releasing the emotion, but we're sitting with where it's held in our body and actually releasing that from our physical system. So the biggest thing here is like really sitting in the body with the emotion, and instead of trying to escape it or get rid of it, right? Because that's our sort of internal response, is we want to be like, get out of me, you know, I don't want this, right? Like we want to like fling it on something. We want to like get out, you know, and it's sitting with that. That's step one, is sitting with that and recognizing the only way out is through, right? When we really sit with our bodies and we feel that pain, which is fiery and intense. I cannot tell you how many hours I have done in somatic processing with myself. You feel crazy. You feel like a psycho person. And that's because you're carrying this energy in your system that's not yours. And you're like, you want it gone, right? You want it out of you. And the only way to break through that barrier of your own suffering is really, so the biggest hurdle here in starting, or arguably through all of it, is sitting with the uncomfortability, right? Sitting with the uncomfortable feeling of what is. And it's one of those things you're either suffering consciously or unconsciously. So you're going around suffering and repeating these patterns and doing these things and in this state. And then, you know, if you stop and go within, it's extremely painful, it's extremely hard, but that is where the transformation happens. So the work in this really is sitting with your body and holding space for yourself. And the reason this work is so important is because many of us who need this work have never had that, right? We've never had someone hold space for us. We've never had someone create a container so that we can emotionally process our experience, or maybe that our emotions were never heard or validated or diminished, right? So we've been conditioned into a belief that our emotions literally don't matter. So the whole thing of this work and you holding space for you is exactly that. This is you now creating your own container for your own body, for your own being, for your own emotions, and allowing whatever needs to come up to move through you. And you can sit, the best way to really open this doorway, because opening the doorway itself is super scary, right? You know, for many of us, we're like, well, once I go there, there's no going back, right? Like once I open Pandora's box, like, and yeah, you're right. Absolutely. There is no going back. But when you go forward, you get to transcend this reality in which you are suffering, right? So however uncomfortable it is, it's not like you were comfortable before. You were in a comfort zone of detachment from your own internal experience, right? So once you first open that doorway, right, your first steps are probably just sitting with the body and feeling what's going through your system, sitting in the uncomfortability and feeling into your body. And you're going to start recognizing things. You're going to start feeling like, oh my gosh, my shoulders are unbearably heavy, right? And your first step is just being the observer, right? You're not trying to fix it. You're not trying to change it. You're not trying to do anything. You're just going to sit with it. Where in your body are you holding what? You know, and I'm being broad, but you're gonna go through your body. You're gonna pay attention, and you're like, okay, my heart has so much pressure on it, right? So now you're going to sit with your heart space and you're going to feel into that pressure, right? The body is giving you information. The body is not hurting you. The body is hurt, right? The body is sharing information with you and saying, hey, I am exhausted. There's so much pressure on my heart. I'm done, right? That's the feeling. This I'm using, you know, an example for us to unpack right now, right? So now you become, you know, the witness of your own experience, right? A non-judgmental witness to your own experience. And you're sitting with yourself, well, where is this pressure coming from? Why am I feeling done, right? And now you're going to connect deeper into that. Well, you know what? I've been doing this and this for so long. I'm exhausted. I've been carrying this weight. I don't feel seen or heard, right? Like whatever that is for you, you're going to start feeling into what this is. And again, the whole thing with this work is we're not fixing anything. We're literally just holding space for what's there. As you continue to hold space for yourself, you can go deeper and deeper into that feeling. What is it? Where is it coming from? Now, obviously, this is many sessions potentially, right, with yourself. And that's why this tool is so powerful to do with yourself, because while you can do a session with me or any other healer, being able to do this work with yourself is an exceptionally powerful tool to transformation. I like to think of our experiences like a tree, an eternal tree, right? So we have these roots of what I'll call the conditioned or programmed self, right? We were born and raised in certain environments, and we were conditioned into certain ways and beliefs and ways of being, right? And that forms the trunk of who we are, right? That forms our reality, right? And then you come into the branches, and that's what we're creating in life, right? Each branch is an extension of our creation. And so we're constantly growing more and more branches. But here's the thing, is that we're creating branches from roots that were, not properly fertilized, right? The soil is not good. The tree was not grown correctly. And so we've got to pick it apart, right? And that's why I use that example, because it is fully loaded. This is the Pandora's box, right? Each thing has a web attached to it. So if I'm sitting with my heart space and I'm like, I've never felt safe in love, right? So that's a really, really, that's a really big statement, right? That one statement has so many more branches coming from it, right? Both branches that we create and then the roots of why we're in that mentality. So while this can feel very overwhelming, this is why we start with our extended furthest branches, where we're at now. I'm going to use like an overgiving example to talk through the tree, okay? So when we look at what we're creating in our life, we're like, maybe the story is people don't show up for me. People don't show up for me. Nobody is there for me. I have to fend for myself. Nobody has my back, right? So maybe that's what we're creating in our own life, right? And even that is deeper into the branches, right? There's some steps even above that before we even get to that recognition, right? But then we take that information and we work backwards. It's like, okay, well, why? Why do I feel like nobody shows up for me? And then you unpack that. Okay, well, I'm always the one. I'm the one who is always doing things for my friends. They don't, reciprocate, right? This was a huge one for me, was reciprocity, right? What does that actually mean? And we can get very caught in a place of like, oh, people just take from me, people take advantage of me. And this is where the self-recognition comes in, and we say, you know what? I'm always overgiving. I'm in a place where I'm overextending my energy and it's not being reciprocated. It's not being received, right? That was a huge, huge recognition. I had to be so honest with myself, right? To get there. And you truly have to look at that, and you truly have to self-reflect, and you have to be honest with your own self and say, well, why am I attracting this? What am I doing that is bringing this into my life? What is the program here? What's the program? The program is people take advantage of me because I overextend and I don't have appropriate boundaries, right? And then we have to sit with that too, right? Because it's not your fault. We're going to take responsibility for it, but it's not like, I'm not going to sit here and shame myself for not having better boundaries, right? I'm going to be like, oh my gosh, let me take that deeper. Okay, I never had boundaries. My boundaries were not respected growing up. Therefore, I allowed other people to cross my boundaries, right? So now we're getting into the trunk, right? We're getting into, okay, this is how I was formulated into this belief system, into this programming, into this reality that I no longer want to be a part of. And then we're going to go deeper and deeper into those roots. What is the seed, right? As we go deeper and deeper, we're going to pull the seed till we get to, okay, I was not respected as an autonomous being growing up. My parents viewed me as an extension of them, not as an individual being with my own experiences, and therefore they didn't understand what a boundary was, right? This is not to blame them. And again, it's like, it's going to pull up emotions in you, which we're going to process and release, but we're not going to hold the blame on them, right? We're going to go through our stage of like, these people, like, you know, you're going to need to process that pain, okay? But we don't want to get stuck there, right? We don't want to get stuck in the story of, oh, these people effed my life up and therefore I'm this way, right? Which is how many people are walking around as they start unpacking and they say, oh, this is how I was brought up and therefore this is how I am. And it's like, well, wait a minute. You know, this is how you brought up. Let's go ahead and go deeper. Let's release that, because just because I was conditioned under this environment does not mean I need to repeat this same programming, right? And this is really how we break these generational chains of unhealthy behaviors, is this process right here. So when we're able to process and release that anger and that sadness, and again, we're going to sit with that. The deeper and deeper we go into this, right, we're going to sit with this. We're going to sit with the pain. We're going to sit with the feelings. We are going to hold space for that. We are going to create a container for sacred rage. This is not something that's talked about, right? Again, healing is not about nicety. We're not projecting anger onto these people. We're holding a sacred container for processing our own experience, right? This can be done in so many ways, right? It can be done through dance, music, breath work, activities, whatever. If you need to go into the forest and scream, please do that for sure. Your rage is sacred. It's real, and it needs an appropriate container. What most people do is like, oh, most people are scared of the rage, and so therefore we suppress it and bury it and say, no, I'm not supposed to have these feelings. I'm not supposed to be this angry. Or like, oh, let me contain the anger, right? Like, I am this angry, but let me contain it. And what you're doing is like creating a ticking time bomb within yourself, right? This is why we say like people who are scary, who are like seem really like they don't let their emotions out, and all of a sudden it's like, boom, they went off, right? It's because they've never processed that rage, and they're trying to contain it and suppress it. And it's literally like the energy is pressing out, and you're like trying to mold rage into like a box, and it doesn't work, right? So when we create a spiritual container to release our emotions, right, it's not about, oh, it's not even about like, oh, we need to go into the forest and yell and get it. You know, it's like your body is holding that for a lifetime. Yes, you do need to go and scream and let it out, or, whatever it is for you, climb a mountain. Like, I don't know, whatever you need to do, because you got something, right? And maybe if you're like sitting here and you're like, oh, I would never just like scream like that. It's like, okay, you should probably do that. That's probably your internal space saying, I need this, right? And I'm bringing this up because it's so important. I'm so tired of the spiritual sunshine and rainbows BS that is out right now. Like, no, your soul is enraged. Let it be. Let it be. Hold the container and release that energy, right? These physical releases are how we're going to move this energy out of our system and make space for a new way of being, right? When we truly process these emotions and let go of them, then we can really, really see the roots. Then we can see our storyline and we can say, oh, right? Oh, this is where this came from. This is why it developed into this way. You can look at your whole storyline and be like, oh, it's very clear to me now how this all developed. And then you're no longer living in a state of like, this is how I was raised. This is who I am. This is what, right? All these BS stories we tell, right? Are we not done with our own BS yet? Like, for real, are we not done with our own trash stories? Like, come on. Like, let it go and be free, okay? If you're spending your life in vengeance, guess what? That person is just living their life, right? Like, you're the one living in that energy. If you're living a lifetime of suffering from something else somebody did, like you're creating your own suffering. You're perpetuating your own suffering. The beauty of unpacking this entire tree that is our conditioned life is that we've actually been growing a tree in its place, right? We've been growing this other identity of ourselves, right? That's sort of been in competition, but it's sort of, I'm thinking of like, when there's like a bigger tree and it's like blocking the sunlight for the other tree. So it's like it's like deformed and kind of sad. Like that's the vibe, right? Our tree's been a little bit deformed because we've had this larger tree just like hovering over our reality, right? So when we pick this apart, then we can start to nourish the tree that is us, right? As soon as we can pick apart all these pieces and put our storyline together and recognize like, you know what are my roots? No, I was always in rebellion against mediocre. You know what? I always tried to create boundaries and I was treated this way. I always tried to stand up for myself, right? These are the roots of you're starting to pull up. Like once you clear the clutter, you're going to start pulling up these versions of you that you were like, you know what? I am this, right? So this is you literally taking your power back and strengthening the roots that you've grown, right? You're coming into your trunk and now you're starting to say, okay, how is this shown up in my life? Okay, and what's my trunk? Well, I've built this thing in my life to not be under this energy. And now it's like, okay, where have the energies been distorted? Where have the branches been distorted? Let's look at that. Okay, well, this is the thing that needs to be cleared, right? When we do that clearing, now we're making space for that to grow. So now it's like we've worked down the tree, we've planted new roots, and now we're bringing that energy up into the tree that is actually us. We're nourishing that, we're feeding that, we're recognizing that truth. And then we're really being more intentional about how we're creating branches in the world, right? Here's the big thing that people don't recognize when you're doing this work. You have created an algorithm, right? So say you're living in this fake reality. I don't want to call it fake reality, distorted reality. Sorry. I mean, it is what it is, right? So you're living in your distorted reality, right? And you're removing yourself from that reality. But your algorithm has to shift, right? So while you're in the process of internally shifting that algorithm, you're still attracting no's. I had this entire year, literally everything was a no. And I was so annoyed. I was like, why? Why is this like no after no after no? And it was like, because you need to learn how to say no. That's why. So your old algorithm is going to keep looping you the same thing until you deny it. And you're like, no, I'm not doing that algorithm anymore. Like I'm done. I am done with that cycle, right? But you have to claim that. Not only do you have to do the work to release that, but you have to claim that I'm done repeating this cycle. And when it comes back around, nope. Comes back around, nope. Comes back around, nope. And this can make us feel super jaded, right? We're like, what is this? Why is this happening, right? I'm finally co-creating with the universe and you're just sending me no's. And it's like, you're breaking your own matrix, right? You're breaking through your own limitations. And that is a portal. There is pressure on that. It does take changing and reprogramming an entire algorithm that you've been conditioned in your entire life. No, it's not easy. This is the framework, though, for transformation of self, right? And we truly are in a time right now, like I said, things are so loud that anything that you're holding on to is coming to the surface. We are going through a very, very deep collective alchemy right now. Old identities, beliefs, programmings, conditionings, all of these things are burning away right now. And that's why it's so loud. And that's why I also feel called to put this information out there, because we are truly moving into a place of gnosis and away from a place of an externalized savior mentality, right? everybody's a guru now, but many of these people have not done their own healing work, right? And while we're all here to support each other on our journeys, right? You are responsible for your own soul path. There is no hierarchical guru that has the answers for you. We can literally all support each other and guide and support and share and help each other heal, right? But it's our actual responsibility for our soul. We are literally no longer in a dogmatic paradigm where somebody holds that power over you, right? This is literally why the system used religion to control people, because if God was something that could only be achieved through a hierarchical being here on earth, then people could not actually access their own cosmic powers, right? And then through this shift, right, we've come into the era of where everyone's a guru, but no one's a guru of themselves, right? The point is to be the guru of yourself. The point is to be the master of your own consciousness, right? I am truly blown away by the collective lack of accountability right now. And I have been called more and more to give people tools and resources for their own journey, rather than being, a reader for people or healing session, and again, you can totally book me for a session. I absolutely 100% support the value of someone else holding space for us to process and heal, right? I actually think that's an essential part of our journey. However, placing your healing in someone else's hands is entirely different. That's why and all readers, or, they say things like, take what resonates, take what's for you. Don't take anything that's not for you, right? Because it's your personal accountability, right? You're deciding what is for you. Just because I say something or channeled something or am sharing an insight, if that doesn't resonate with you, then don't carry it in your being, right? And again, if you are, why are you doing that? Sit with that. Why is what she's saying so offensive to me? Why am I so offended by what she just said? What's going on inside that you feel so irritated by whatever it was, right? Because that's when we sit with like, oh, well, she's touching on this and I feel this, and now you're unpacking that with yourself rather than like leaving me some comment like right. Instead of that, go inside and say, why is this woman making me so angry, right? Like, that's the work, okay? I wish people could truly see, what they're actually creating in cosmic consciousness. When I do cord cuttings and reprogrammings for people, I wish they could see like the way they were draining their energy through these cords, right? The way that they're literally draining their soul through attachments. Like, this is why you're in so much pain. This is why you're suffering. Your soul is calling for you to reclaim that energy. Your soul is calling you to pull that energy back in and stop overextending your reality. Stop overextending your energies. Stop feeding energies that are not supporting you. Real quick, before I close this out, I just again want to reiterate the importance of moving the energy out of the body. Many of us think that everything is solved in the mind. We're a very mind-oriented collective consciousness, right? Like, this is where we've been socially, is everybody thinks everything is in the mind or the brain, not even the mind, like the brain, right? You are constantly trying to solve something in your brain. I see this so much with clients where they're consistently looking to solve their problems in the brain. And especially if you're doing it through the lens of old programming, right? And what you're actually doing there is just running the same loops, right? You're trying to just sit there and solve and run loops and just figure it out. and you're making yourself crazy. And I'll say things like, you need to get this out of your body. And they'll go back to the mental state, right? Like, oh no, but da 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 da, right? It's just running. And it's like, no. No. Let it go. Come into the body. What is the body asking? Because even though you're recognizing the truth in the mind and then you're trying to sort it in the mind, it's like your body is asking you to connect with that so that you can move forward, because your body is still holding that programming, right? If you're saying, okay, I see this and I want to move past this, and it's like, okay, well, your heart is still hurt. You're still hurt and you're trying to find the answer. So until you do the work in the body, you're not going to solve the problem in your brain until you recognize the patterns and create new ones. Then you can't find the way out, right? You're running in a maze with no exit. And I find this for heavy thinkers, it's like you're so stuck in the mind space. And literally you are the one that needs to go to the forest and scream. That's you. Go into the forest and scream. Ask the trees to create a container for you to go and let that energy be released from your system, process it and recycle it to the earth, right? Because while you're so busy in your mind, you don't realize how fractured the body is from all of that. All right, Star Family, I really hope that this helps you wherever you're at in your processing journey. I'm definitely available for not only private sessions, but also coaching on how to do this work with yourself and how to truly alchemize your own internal experience and reclaim your power, your soul, and your connection to mind, body, spirit, and heart. Your conscious evolution is greatly appreciated. Anyone else, please take your emotional trash to an appropriate receptacle that is not on my page. All right,